So if you clicked on this video, I'm guessing you know what Whop's content rewards is and what clipping is. And you probably know it as how TJR, how Brez, and how all these big personal brands are blowing up. And you sold that you can just create a Whop content rewards campaign. You put a budget into it and you set your CPMs, how much you pay the clippers. And then all these really good clippers join your Whop content rewards and they post content of you across social media. You generate millions and millions of views. And luckily for you, you don't have to take on any risk because the editors only get paid for views. You don't take any risk on yourself and you sold this whole dream. But as someone who's worked in this content rewards model, even before Whop was even a thing, I built a content rewards team for a client of ours. And in today's video, I'm going to reveal the truth about Whop's content rewards, or basically content rewards in general, not necessarily Whop. Now, these aren't just like things that I just ChatGPT'd and said, what are the negative things about content rewards and clipping. These are things that I learned from working in the content rewards model and managing a team of 20 plus clippers for specific clients. And they were really, really good clippers. They were all worked in Luke Balmore's team before, ran some of Luke Balmore's top sub accounts. A few of them still working my team internally now, but these are all lessons that I learned. So I'm not trying to hate or anything. I'm just trying to share what I learned. So I've generated over 350 million views. It's probably around 400 to 500 actually. But just to say conservatively, 350 million views and over 300,000 followers for the clients we have worked with. I've worked in all these guys' teams. Even I worked in his team as an editor, but I learned a lot in that team. And all these other guys I've worked with either in their team as an editor or as my clients to our content agency. Some of them I still work with, some of them I don't. Here's just some results that I've generated, just so you know that I kind of know what I'm talking about. So we've generated over 39 million views in 90 days for Samir Mithwani, and we ran some of his top sub accounts across social media. We've gained him over 150,000 followers across the accounts we ran for him. Now, he has around 300,000 followers on Instagram, and we've gained him across the accounts we ran for him 150,000 followers. And we started working with him when he had I think 15,000 subscribers on YouTube, and now he has over 50,000 subscribers, and we average around 13 million views a month. Last month we generated 15 million views. We're aiming for 20 million views this month, but yeah. And then here's an anonymous client. We signed an NDA, so I can't reveal who this client is. I can't wait for the day where we can actually reveal who this client is, because he's massive. He's really, really big, and the results we've generated for him is this is in 150 days. We've generated him 105,000 followers. We've generated him over 50 million views and over 81,000 link clicks to his free course. So these results, these results here, are from one Instagram account and one TikTok account. This is not from 1,000 clipping pages altogether. Like I spoke to one guy, he said they generated 50 million views in a month, but that was from 100 accounts across Instagram and TikTok. So this is from one Instagram account and one TikTok account, and actually one YouTube account. Same with Samir. We only run 3 Instagram accounts, 3 TikTok accounts, and 3 YouTube accounts for him. This is not across thousands of clipping pages. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about in this video. In this video, I'm going to cover how you've been sold the pay for views dream, or the whole content rewards dream, the pros and cons of Whop's content rewards, or just content rewards in general, not necessarily Whop's content rewards. That's just how most people know content rewards. And then the solution / the best model that I think, and from my experience, is the easiest to work with, is the easiest to scale, is the easiest to control, and is actually the most efficient model that will get you the most views at the lowest cost. So everyone is telling you the dream that you're just going to create a Whop content rewards, your personal brand is going to magically blow up. Clippers are going to join your campaign, they'll create the accounts, they'll start posting for you, to start posting thousands of clips of you across social media, and then fingers crossed a few of the vids blow up and you're going to generate millions and millions of views every single month. And luckily for you, if your content's not good and the editors don't generate views at all, you don't have to pay, because the editors take on all the risk and you only pay for views. But the reality of it is, most clippers on Whop are new in experience and are probably 15 years old, and they just learned the basics of CapCut. Now, obviously, I'm not hating against anyone learning the basics of CapCut. I actually started when I was around 15 years old on CapCut, and that's how I worked with my first clients, was literally on my phone or my iPad making edits. But if you're going to let thousands of 15-year-olds who just learn to use CapCut control your brand and your perception online, I just think that's a bit silly, because some of the content, some people may not have ever heard of you or ever seen your content, and the first video they see is maybe a really shitty edit, maybe it paints you in a really bad light, and that's the first touch point with your content and with you. For example, Imagazi is a co-owner of Whop, but he has one of the biggest personal brands in the space, but he does not use Whop's content rewards for his personal brand's content. And the reason is because he wants to control his brand image and his whole online perception. With content rewards, you can't control your brand image or your brand perception because there's thousands of clippers that join the campaigns. So you can't be quality checking and reviewing every single video to ensure that it doesn't paint you in a bad light before that video is posted. Like I worked in Iman's team, every single video that is put out is first reviewed and quality checked, and if there's things that need to be changed, like even just small spelling mistakes, they give revisions on that. And that's how detail orientated they are, and that's how focused they are on maintaining Iman's brand and his whole brand perception. So they had like 50 editors on their team. They were spending just under, I think, $250,000 a month on content. I think it was around $100,000 a month on short form specifically, and they had like 50 editors on their team, and every single video was quality checked. Now with content rewards, you can't do this because the systems aren't in place like that. But all of this is just wrong that I explained up here, because successful content distribution, which is what content rewards is, the whole goal of that is to distribute your content across the internet and become omnipresent across these social media platforms. Like a successful content distribution strategy makes up of a few different things. So a team of killer editors or clippers, or very, very talented editors and clippers who have experience, who have results, and guys who are just really, really good at what they do. The correct systems and processes, like control, like I was talking about earlier, control over brand, about what content is being put out, control over the team, right strategy, and consistency. Now there's probably a few more, but these are the top 5 that are very, very important in order to have a successful content distribution campaign, if I may call it that, for your personal brand. And I'm gonna get into all of these points here later on in the video. So big personal brands don't blow up overnight and by chance. It's all calculated, but you just don't see that part, that the calculated part. You don't see the strategy behind it. You don't see the team calls behind it, why they post this type of content. You just don't see any of that. You don't even see that Iman's team reviews every single piece of content before it's put out. You don't see that even if there's a small spelling mistake, they make the editor go and change that spelling mistake. You don't see that if something paints him in a bad light, that they go ahead and don't post that video. They structure the clip differently. I've even had, when I was working there, one of his team members literally just filmed a 10-minute loom just going over one video and why I should make this change and how that will make the video perform better. 10-minute loom for one short form video out of 50 editors doing 3 videos a day. Like, that's how seriously they take this stuff, and that's how much thought and detail is behind the stuff, but you just don't see that part. So let me get into the pros and cons of content rewards and why it's not the best team and distribution model. So let me start with the cons. Let me start with the pros first, because these are the things that you're already sold. So there's no upfront risk on your end. So you only pay for views generated. The clippers or editors take on all the risk. Now this is great because you don't have to take on any risk. If the videos don't perform well, then you don't have to pay. If it gets 1 million views, then you pay for those 1 million views. But if the video flops, if the editors don't perform, then you don't have to pay. So that's very, very good. But I'm gonna get into why it's actually not really good to have this model where the clippers take on all the risk, but I'm gonna get into that when I talk about the cons. And then it also means the incentives are aligned. Your incentives of getting views and blowing up your personal brand is aligned with the editor's incentives. So both parties' incentives are aligned, and they're both aiming for the same goal, which is great, because that means editors are going to be more motivated to get views and to actually make the videos perform. And then the second pro is it's a good way to post thousands of clips of yourself and distribute a lot of your content and clips of your content across social media. So let's say you already have a big personal brand and you post on Instagram saying, yo, you guys can make money by clipping up my content. Then you build a really big clipping army who join your content and rewards campaign, and then they start posting a whole bunch of clips of you. But this also raises the questions of quality, consistency, and the actual skill of these editors. But that's what I'm going to get into now. Now, if I missed a pro, please let me know. I guess a pro would also be, it's pretty hands-off. It's pretty passive. Like, you don't really have to put that much extra work in, especially if you have someone managing the short-form team. You just create the long-form videos, whether it's podcasts, YouTube videos, vlogs, whatever that may be. And then the editors handle the rest. So it's pretty hands-off on your end. But let's just get into the cons now. And this is the stuff that no one really talks about. And the reason I don't talk about it is because you only realize this stuff once you work in the model itself. You can't really see this from the outside in, and I'm gonna talk about that right now. So there's a lack of talent and A players. Now there are definitely some really, really good clippers, but I'd say the top 20% of editors of the clippers get the most results, and the bottom 80% hardly get any results, and then maybe the top 20 or 10% get all the results and generate all the views. Just a hint to the model I'm talking about is, why not just cut out the bottom 80% and just focus on the top 10%? But I'm gonna get into that at the end of this video. So most clippers are very inexperienced, and most of the time it's beginners, because they've watched videos from these guys that work at Whop saying this is the best way to start making money online as a beginner, and it probably is, because there's a very low barrier of entry to start clipping. But that means, like, you're gonna have 15-year-olds, like I wrote here, you're gonna have 15-year-olds that just learn how to use CapCut and who's probably pretty shitty at editing and don't really have any knowledge around this whole personal branding space. And they're gonna be able to have an impact on your brand, and they're gonna be able to have an impact on your brand perception and how people see you online. And that's also kind of what I was talking about the cons of aligned incentives, and when editors are just motivated for views, is what content performs the best on social media. It's usually the most controversial content that performs the best. That's why a guy like Andrew Tate got so famous, was he said the most controversial things. So if someone's incentive is just to get views, they're going to be clipping up the most controversial clips of you in order to get those views, and those controversial clips may paint you in a bad light. Maybe you don't care, maybe you want to be known as this controversial person, but that can paint you in a bad light, and that can really damage your brand. So back to Iman, for example. Iman has a very distinct style. If you see a video from Iman, you know it's Iman video because of the style of the video, and that's very intentional from him and his team. And with something like content rewards, you can't really do this because you can't really control the content that's being put out. And then secondly is inconsistency. So editors are paid on performance. So if they want to skip a day or a week or even a month, they can. I saw this a lot when I was working with this specific client who I bought this content rewards team for. It was about a team of like 20 clippers. A lot of the clippers would just stop posting for a few days and they'd be like, oh yeah, I didn't really want to, I was focusing more on this. And then you can't really do anything about that because you're not paying them a retainer to kind of show up every day and to edit those clips. So they can just bugger off if they want. And this leads nicely into my next point, which is high editor churn. So if editors don't see results in a month or even a week with your content, they just quit and they move on to the next shiny opportunity, because there's constantly new people starting content rewards campaigns. And if they're scrolling on the content rewards like homepage, they see, oh, TJR started this new campaign. Okay, I'm gonna ditch this guy, start working for them. So then you have to constantly be having new editors joining your team, and it's just the churn rate is very high. This is what I saw with this client. Like, an editor would refer one of their friends and they join the team, and then they wouldn't see results in a week and they'd quit. But if they just stuck with it for the next 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, then they could have seen results and they could have blown up. Like the one specific client we worked with, the first month we got like 300,000 views, which is very bad. And we're on the brink of like stopping working with these clients because they're like, guys, we haven't seen results this month. But then the next month we generated 26 million views. So if we quit that first month and we just generated 300,000 views, then we would have never generated the 26 million views. And now with this client, we've generated them over 100,000 followers in like 4 months or something through one Instagram and one TikTok account. So sticking with it is very important, but you can't really blame the clippers or the editors because they're not being paid for those initial efforts they're putting on, because they're taking on all the risks. So if they're not seeing results, they're not being paid, so they can just as well leave. You can't really blame them for that. And then next one, I've spoken about this quite a bit now throughout this video, is if you have thousands of clippers in your Whop or in your Whop campaign, it is borderline impossible to control and quality check every single piece of content. You're giving thousands of random people the ability to affect your brand and your online presence. So just sit there and think about that for a bit. And I think this is what people are going to start realizing is, I can't control what these guys are putting out of me, and that's affecting your brand, how people see you, etc. But maybe you don't care. Maybe you just want views. Maybe you don't really care about your brand. And that's also all good. So the next one is, and this is kind of leaning more into the best model, is many low quality over very high quality, a few very high qualities. So with content rewards, you have very many low quality, but with the model that I'm going to talk about, you have a few very high quality. So I spoke about this before, but I spoke to a guy who runs a Whop clipping campaign for quite a big creator. You'll probably know this guy. They generated 50 million views in 1 month. Now, this sounds great on paper until you realize that the results came from across thousands of accounts across, or maybe not thousands, but hundreds of accounts across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So then that number doesn't become that impressive anymore because it's across all these accounts. Maybe the clippers, each clipper just had to generate 10,000 views in a month, and then that equals to 50 million views in total across all of this. So we generated 26 million views in 1 month across one Instagram account, one TikTok account, and one YouTube account for a client. So if you have thousands of accounts, you can't really control that. But if you just have a small team who grows very, very big accounts, that's way better. Why would you want to have a team of thousands or hundreds of people who get the same results as a team of 5 or 10 people? It makes so much more sense to just have a few very good people than a lot of low quality people. And another part to this is it's much more valuable to have an account on Instagram with 50,000 followers than have 1,000 accounts with 50 followers. I hope you get what I'm saying there, but it's pretty self-explanatory. So what's the best model? Sorry, I didn't create any fancy things for this. I'm just going to explain it right now. So usually the two sides is you pay a retainer or you do content reward. You don't pay per video, you don't pay a retainer, you just pay for views. And the other side is there's just a retainer, so you don't pay for views, you just pay for the video. Now, why don't you mix those two? So this is the model that we're starting to work with now. And we're getting really, really good results with it because you're getting the best of both worlds of paying them a retainer, which ensures they're consistent with their editing and posting, which also ensures that you have control over the content, what content is being put out. You can review the videos, you can tell them to change things up about the video if you don't like it. You can ensure that they're painting in a good light. And then you also get the other side of incentivizing views. So this could be in the form of a CPM. So let's say you pay them a retainer plus a CPM. Obviously the CPM will be lowered because you're also paying them this retainer. But how we do it is we have a retainer and then we also give them bonuses per million views. So let's say, for example, I'm not going to give the exact number, but let's say, for example, we pay them a retainer and we pay them $50 per million views or $75 per million views or $100 per million views. You don't have to make that bonus too high because you're already paying them the retainers. And this also attracts the best talent because the best talent don't want to be working just on retainers because they want to be rewarded for the results they get, but they also don't just work on CPM. Now I know this because I've spoken to so many editors asking them what type of offers are the best for them, and they always say retainer plus a performance bonus structure. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, just DM me on Instagram. I'm not going to try to sell you a course or anything. I'm always happy to help for free. So yeah, have a good one and thank you. And if you have any backlash or any feedback you want to give me, maybe I missed out a few things, just type them in the comments. Always happy to learn. So yeah, thank you.